Hey folks, welcome back to the last lecture of this segment on business organizations. We will talk about them next week as well, but I wanted to point out to you that the hat that I am wearing right now and I wore in the last lecture is called a bowler hat. It's often worn by English gentlemen, particularly in the 18th and 19th and 20th centuries. So I like this kind of hat and I like to wear it when I dress up. Remember too, you can come down to the haberdashery and find it on sale. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into my summer Panama hat, which is what you normally wear in the summer. This is a straw hat. A Panama hat comes from Ecuador, strangely enough. They're woven in Ecuador, and people, the reason they call Panama hats is many people, when they were building the Panama Canal, would wear the hats in that time. So they got the name Panama hats. Anyway, they're summer hats. So we're going to talk about franchises now. Franchises are not a type of business, not like sole proprietorships and general partnerships, what we talked about last time. Franchises are simply a contract. It's a contract between a franchisor, the person who sells the franchise, and a franchisee who buys the franchise. And it's a contract in general to use intellectual property. Remember, our legal symbol for contract is a K. It's a contract to use patents, trademarks, trade secrets, any sort of those kinds of things, any of those intellectual property ideas that we learned about, those are what's in the contract that people purchase and use. For example, when you go to McDonald's, you expect the same level of quality every single time. And that's where you see the golden arches, where you see all the other things you associate with McDonald's. The same with the stripes of In-N-Out and the chevron stripes for the gas station. You expect to see those kinds of things at every single McDonald's and In-N-Out and Chevron. That a franchise is a contract to use intellectual property. The franchisee, that is the person who bought the franchise, is paying the franchisor, the person who sold the franchise, money, a license, a royalty to use that intellectual property. Now, oftentimes there is a master franchisor like McDonald's, and there can be a area or sub-franchisor that buys an area, for example, Northern California, and sells franchises to various towns and cities within the area that they're responsible for. And these franchises can go for literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of dollars. It'd be pretty expensive to try to buy a McDonald's franchise in these days. Now, it is not a form of doing business, because you can do business as a franchise, as a sole proprietor, as a corporation, which we'll talk about later, as an LLC, as a partnership. Any of these ways you can do business and still be a franchise. It doesn't make any difference. It's only how you want to set up your business. Now, the franchisor may have certain requirements about how to set up the business and certain requirements about what you can be, like you must be a corporation or you must be an LLC. Franchises are extremely highly regulated by both the federal government through the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, and state governments. Each of these has significant laws requiring the franchisor to give lots and lots of information to the potential franchisee. The reason is that for a long time there was a lot of scams going on in the sale of franchises, and may still be today. And so they wanted to make sure that you had a substantial amount of information on which to determine whether or not you wanted to buy the franchise. They won't, generally speaking, give you any earnings estimates about how much money you can earn for your particular franchise in your particular area. Why? Well, think about it for a second. If you are successful or not in a franchise in your area often depends on your business wisdom, on your business decision making, on where you've chosen to set up, on how you run your business, whether you run it well or poorly, and all sorts of other kinds of different criteria that the franchisor has no control over. So they probably will not give you specific information on the amount of money that you can make. They will, however, and are required, however, to give you some general approximations on averages of revenue and profits. Also remember that the franchisor has incredibly strict standards about quality control because they want to ensure that when you go to the McDonald's in Napa or in the middle of the desert in Nevada or in Indianapolis in the Midwest or in Virginia Beach in Virginia on the East Coast, they want to make sure that you are getting the exact same quality of food, of napkins, of Coke, and soft drinks, and all of that other stuff. It has to be the same all over the country. Well, indeed, all over the world. So they have incredibly strict standards of quality control, and if you don't meet those standards, they can come down on you pretty hard, and at the end, they can take that franchise away from you. Okay, folks, that's it on Business Organizations Part 1. We'll see you next time on Business Organizations Part 2, where we'll talk about LLCs, limited partners, and corporations. Thanks a lot.